Hiroto Takasaki, a focused high school student determined to become a doctor, returns home one day to find a surprising sight: a girl lying unconscious in front of his apartment door. Living alone for personal reasons, Hiroto's instincts kick in. Worried and unsure how she ended up there, he kneels beside her, scanning for any visible injuries. Her strange, foreign-looking clothes catch his attention, but right now, her well-being is the priority. Without wasting time, Hiroto gently lifts her and carries her inside, reasoning that leaving her on the floor would only make things worse. As he approaches his bedroom, she suddenly stirs awake. Her eyes widen in shock upon realizing she's being carried by a stranger. Panicked, she clings tightly to Hiroto, who freezes, unsure of what to do. He tries to calm her, speaking softly until her fear subsides. Once she relaxes, she pulls away, blushing, and retreats into the bedroom, leaving Hiroto both curious and concerned. They attempt to communicate, but it quickly becomes clear they don't speak the same language. The girl resorts to hand gestures, though they only understand bits and pieces. Hiroto notices a peculiar collar around her neck, which raises a troubling thought. Could she be a slave? When he asks directly, she nods. Stunned, Hiroto struggles to process it. This is Japan, not some fantasy world. Trying to shake off the disbelief, he heads to the kitchen to make tea. When the stove acts up, as it often does, the girl surprises him by casually appearing with literal fire in her hand. Hiroto's mind spins as he considers the impossible. Could she be from another world? Lost in thought, he's brought back to reality by the growl of her stomach. Concerned, he warms up some food and places it before her, encouraging her to eat. But she hesitates, not touching the meal. Worried that she doesn't like it, Hiroto offers to eat it himself. To his surprise, she insists on feeding him instead. Flustered, he tries to decline, but she's persistent, managing to feed him a spoonful. Hiroto gently tells her she doesn't need to act like a servant, reassuring her that she's safe and free. Her face lights up at his words, and she finally starts eating on her own, savoring every bite. Relieved, Hiroto brings her a drink and watches as she happily cleans her plate. Though embarrassed by her enthusiasm, she seems genuinely content, which warms Hiroto's heart. Realizing that cold fried rice isn't exactly ideal, he decides to make porridge next time. As he returns to the table, he finds her licking the plate clean. Embarrassed but amused, he figures she must have been seriously malnourished. Over time, Hiroto becomes more concerned about her overall condition. Her clothes are tattered, and her body shows signs of past injuries. Determined to help, he gently suggests she take a bath. Her wide-eyed reaction quickly shifts to a bright smile, catching Hiroto off guard. Remembering that girls generally enjoy baths, he feels slightly reassured, until it dawns on him that she has no change of clothes. Awkwardly, he suggests she change in the bathroom. Unfortunately, she misunderstands and starts unbuttoning his white coat right then and there. Flustered, Hiroto quickly pulls it away and turns around, his face burning with embarrassment. He doesn't want her walking around looking like a slave, but the situation is becoming uncomfortable. As she continues undressing in front of him, Hiroto panics, running out of the bathroom to give her privacy. From behind the closed door, he calls out, asking if she knows how to bathe properly, offering instructions through the door. Suddenly, there's a scream from inside the bathroom. The girl has turned on the shower, only to be frightened by the sudden rush of water, which she seems to regard as some kind of menacing beast. Realizing she's never seen modern plumbing before, Hiroto understands that she won't be able to manage on her own. Reluctantly, he grabs a blindfold, ties it around his eyes, and steps into the bathroom to help her. Just think of this as a medical procedure, he tells himself as he helps her wash. He gently cleans her hair, asking her to let him know if anything hurts. The girl seems delighted, running her fingers through her now soft and silky hair. Hiroto, on the other hand, is trying to keep his composure, knowing this situation is anything but ordinary. Next comes washing her body, a task that leaves him unsure of how to proceed. As he finishes washing her hair, he wonders what will happen next. What can he possibly do for her? Should he take her to the police? He can't just keep her in his apartment indefinitely. What does she think of all this? She seems oddly fascinated with him, a feeling Hiroto doesn't fully understand. Despite the unusual circumstances, his primary focus remains on getting into medical school. He's still underage, after all, and having a mysterious girl with him only complicates things. As he grapples with these thoughts, he turns to leave the bathroom. But before he can exit, The girl mischievously pulls off his blindfold. Hiroto opens his eyes, only to find her standing there, completely naked. Flustered, he stumbles backward, unsure of what to do. She starts tugging at his white coat, as if signaling that it's now his turn to bathe. "That's enough," Hiroto blurts out, stopping her. His heart pounds as he tries to regain control of the situation. The girl, upset by his refusal, looks frustrated. Just then, Hiroto notices the bruises and injuries covering her body, injuries he hadn't seen before. His doctor's instincts kick in, and he quickly shifts gears, inspecting her wounds more closely. Without another word, he begins treating her injuries, cleaning the cuts and applying bandages where needed. The girl watches him silently, her expression softening as he tends to her with gentle care. A memory seems to flicker in her eyes, perhaps of the past, of being sold into slavery in her village to a man with a kind smile. The man helps her sit down on a stool, and though she flinches when he touches her, she doesn't resist. She seems both surprised and touched by his kindness, something she isn't used to. Here she was introduced to magic. As the man places a hand gently on her head, she glances down at her collar, as if expecting it to hold her back. But there are no chains here, no shackles binding her anymore. Tears well up in her eyes, and for the first time she looks genuinely relieved. Once her wounds are treated, Hiroto hands her a towel and tells her to put on the clean clothes he's provided. The girl, however, shakes her head in refusal. She doesn't want to wear the clothes. Hiroto insists, believing that providing her with fresh clothes is a simple, kind gesture. But she resists, holding on to her old identity as a slave. With a firm voice, Hiroto orders her to stop acting like a slave and to start living like a normal girl. The words leave her stunned, unsure how to respond. Slavery is all she's ever known. In her world, it defines her. But here in Japan, there are no slaves, and Hiroto is determined to change her mindset. After a tense moment, she reluctantly takes the clothes from him and angrily puts them on, though the gesture is far from genuine acceptance. That night, they sleep in the same room, though Hiroto makes sure she stays on the floor while he takes the bed. As he lies awake, staring at the ceiling, he wonders how long it will take for her to adjust. She had been against the idea of becoming a normal girl, clearly still attached to her old identity. But Hiroto is determined to change that, bit by bit, if necessary. Later in the night, he hears the sound of a window opening. He rubs his eyes and gets up, only to find the girl standing on the balcony. To his utter disbelief, she's relieving herself on the plants, mistaking them for a toilet. Hiroto sighs. It seems their life of cultural exchange has only just begun. Another typical morning unfolds as Hiroto wakes up, feeling well-rested. He rubs his eyes and stretches, only to find the girl already awake, standing before him with a towel in hand. She offers it to him with a smile, but he politely declines. He gently reminds her that he had told her before to stop following those slave-like routines as he heads toward the bathroom, adding that he can handle it himself. As he washes his face, he ponders a recurring issue. What should he call her? She doesn't speak his language, and so far, he's only referred to her as you. Not having a name is starting to cause problems. Behind him, the girl silently stands, still offering a towel, even though Hiroto already has one. The slave without a name, he thinks, feeling the weight of the situation. After freshening up, they both move to the kitchen. Hiroto sits down at the table, scribbling something on a sheet of paper. It dawns on him that he forgot to explain her task for the day. She looks so eager and excited at the prospect of being given a job. Hiroto, though, doesn't need that kind of enthusiasm for what he has in mind. He says it's nothing important, handing her a small pile of children's books. They are basic, one's meant to teach reading and numbers. He tells her that her job for the day is to study, instructing her to start with hiragana. The most important thing right now is for her to learn the language. The girl doesn't seem pleased. She stares at the books, clearly unimpressed. To her, this isn't real work. It's certainly not what she expected when Hiroto said she had a job. Her eyes narrow, and she protests in her way, gesturing toward the kitchen and the mess around the apartment. She wants to do house chores instead. He sighs but relents. Fine, you can clean up, he concedes. Her face lights up with happiness, and she immediately sets to work. Hiroto, watching her joyfully take on the task, can't help but smile. After all, it's only fair they share the housework since they're both living together. But what happens next leaves Hiroto stunned. The girl, using magic, lifts everything in the room into the air. books, socks, and even papers. Everything hovers above her as she tidily arranges things in their rightful places. Hiroto's mouth drops open in shock as he rushes toward her, exclaiming that she shouldn't use magic for this and urging her to clean up normally instead. He pleads with her, explaining that if she were to use magic like that in public, it could cause serious problems. The girl looks confused, but Hiroto patiently starts showing her how to use the household devices instead, demonstrating how to operate each one step by step. She watches him with wide, curious eyes. He emphasizes the importance of not relying on magic in this world. Here, we use technology for everything, he explains, so magic isn't necessary. The girl silently nods, although clearly, she doesn't fully agree. To her, the idea of doing things without magic seems strange, perhaps even inefficient. As he finishes explaining, the girl suddenly grabs his shirt, her eyes filling with tears. She starts crying softly, hugging him as if something precious has been lost. Hiroto freezes, surprised by the sudden emotional outburst. "What's wrong?" he asks, gently patting her back. Through her sobs, it becomes clear she feels useless without her magic, as though it's what defines her value. Hiroto quickly reassures her, "That's not the case at all. You're more than just your magic." At that moment, a brush falls on the floor. "Berna," he says softly, deciding to give her a name. The girl blinks through her tears, looking up at him in confusion. "I'll call you Berna," he continues, smiling gently. "It's inspired by the word narb, which means scar in German. I thought of the opposite to help you heal quicker." The girl's tears slow, and she looks at him with a hint of surprise and gratitude. "Berna." A name, she stares down at a brush, holding it awkwardly. Hiroto chuckles softly as she tries to write something, gently correcting her by saying that it's backward, and with that, their strange yet heartfelt cultural exchange continues. As Berna prepares to change her clothes, Hiroto watches her carefully, still unsure how to explain many modern concepts to her. He notices how her curiosity flares whenever she encounters something new, like the dish soap she's currently inspecting. She always reacts this way when she's washing dishes, staring at the soap as if it's some kind of mysterious treasure. It reminds Hiroto of how much she still needs to learn, especially about the simplest things. After she finishes washing the dishes, Hiroto realizes he must address something more immediate, her clothes. She's still wearing the same ragged outfit from before, and it's time for her to have something proper for everyday life. He watches her struggle with the high water pressure as she turns on the tap too forcefully, soaking the sink. "Are you okay?" he asks, concerned. Berna nods, but it's clear she's still figuring out how everything works. First things first, Hiroto decides they need to buy her some clothes. Together, they look for undergarments online. Berna, unfamiliar with these items, stares blankly at the rows of bras, pointing at them one by one, confused. Hiroto awkwardly explains that she needs to choose what works best for her, but Berna just gestures with her fingers, still uncertain. They pick out a few items, and as they are about to purchase them, the option to choose the size pops up. Hiroto freezes, not having considered this detail. His mind begins to race. How does one even take those measurements? After searching, he finds something about the upper bust and lower bust, but the thought of having to measure her makes him sweat. Could he do that? It's a task better suited for someone else, but there's no one else. With a sigh, he realizes it's up to him. Meanwhile, Berna finds a yo-yo at a nearby display and starts playing with it, her attention completely diverted. Hiroto calls her back and, despite his discomfort, begins taking her measurements. He starts with the lower bust, carefully maintaining his composure as he works. Beads of sweat form on his forehead, his focus wavering as he tries to make the process feel as clinical as possible. This is just like preparing to be a doctor, he tells himself. It's nothing more than that, but when he reaches the upper bust, it becomes far more awkward. His hands hover nervously, his face reddening as he finally manages to complete the task. "All done," he says quickly, stepping back, his face a mixture of embarrassment and exhaustion. Both of them stand there, feeling the awkwardness of the moment settle around them. Hiroto hurriedly finishes placing the order. The next day, their order arrives. Hiroto unboxes the clothes and hands them to Berna, telling her to try them on. Her eyes widen in surprise as she picks them up, staring at them in confusion. With a voice full of wonder, she asks if they are hers. She had assumed they were for someone else. Hiroto sighs, already feeling drained by the conversation. "Yes, they're yours," he insists. Though she seems to be teasing him, Hiroto doesn't have the energy to argue. He tells her that these are her clothes now and that she should value them, reminding her that she's no longer a slave and that wearing them will make her look like a normal girl. He hands her the new clothes as a gift, hoping she will accept them. For a moment, Berna seems hesitant, and he wonders if he said something wrong. She doesn't look happy with the new dress. Confused by her reaction, Hiroto notices that she's sweating profusely. He quickly fetches a towel for her, but to his shock, she's already wiping her sweat with her underwear. Hiroto's eyes widen in horror. He exclaims that it's not a towel, completely thrown off by her actions. He stammers as he tries to explain the concept of undergarments to Berna, realizing there's still so much she doesn't understand about modern life. "You don't use it like that," he mutters, utterly bewildered, wondering how long it will take her to grasp these everyday essentials. There's a long road ahead for them. Hiroto feels a pain of guilt as he watches Berna struggle with cleaning the kitchen. He hadn't realized how messy things had gotten, nor how different their methods of cleaning were. While Berna tries her best, she's restricted by his strict rule against using magic. As she moves around, determined to help, her foot catches on a wire lying on the floor, sending her tumbling to the ground. Seeing her fall, Hiroto suddenly feels lightheaded. It's not long before he realizes he's caught a cold. Berna, feeling guilty, immediately blames herself for the accident, but Hiroto reassures her, "It's not your fault. I've always had a weak constitution." He explains how his physical condition has always been fragile, something he calls a medic's paradox, a future doctor who can't seem to stay healthy. Berna's guilt only deepens, and she insists on taking care of him so he can recover faster. At first, he tries to wave her off, telling her it's unnecessary and that he'll get better on his own. But Berna's resolve doesn't waver, so he relents, giving her instructions on how to make rice porridge. His stomach grumbles as he waits, eager for a warm meal to settle it. When Berna finally brings the porridge, it's burnt black in bits sticking to the sides of the bowl. Hiroto stares blankly at it, but in an effort not to hurt her feelings, he forces himself to take a bite. "It's tasty," he lies. The lie, it is short-lived. As soon as he swallows, a sharp pain hits his stomach, and he doubles over in discomfort. Berna immediately attempts to use her magic to fix him, but Hiroto stops her, reminding her, again, that they aren't using magic for everything. "I'll be fine," he mutters, trying to push through the pain. Feeling the cold worsen, Hiroto asks for a blanket. Berna quickly drapes it over him, her worry evident in her eyes. Maybe he should go to the hospital later. Hiroto ponders weakly. For now, he just wants to sleep. Berna, however, seems determined to stay close, and when Hiroto eventually drifts off, she lies down on the floor beside him. In the middle of the night, Berna, unable to sleep comfortably, crawls into bed with him. Hiroto wakes up with a start, feeling her presence next to him. "Get off the bed," he shouts, flustered. "We can't sleep together." He's far too conscious of her, and the situation makes him too uncomfortable to rest. She doesn't move, though. Instead, she applies cold water compresses to his forehead, doing her best to soothe his fever. As the night wears on, Berna struggles to stay awake. She briefly considers using magic to keep herself alert, but quickly remembers Hiroto's strict instruction not to. Still, her worry over his health gets the best of her, and she decides to use magic to help him recover. Berna presses her forehead against his and transfers his fever to herself, a spell she's mastered to heal others. When Hiroto wakes, his headache has eased, and his body feels lighter. He notices Berna sitting at the dining table, her face flushed. "Thanks for taking care of me," he says as he approaches, but when Berna doesn't respond, he comes closer, realizing her face is burning red. His heart sinks. She's caught his cold. He quickly pieces together what she's done, transferring his illness to herself. "Berna?" He sighs, frustrated. "As a future doctor, this is unacceptable. You shouldn't have done that." He scolds her gently. "You have to stop using magic for things like this." Berna looks away, too weak to argue. In the end, Hiroto takes her temperature, and while it's already starting to return to normal, he's still troubled. Even though her magic worked, it was a dangerous solution. He knows he'll have to be more careful in the future, for both their sakes. One evening, Berna is watching the live news broadcast about the Soji Commercial District's Golden Week Festival. There are only 2 days left of the celebration, and her curiosity peaks as she points at the screen, eager to understand what it's all about. He glances at the television and explains that it's a time when many holidays are bundled together, allowing people to take days off and relax. Berna, still puzzled, gestures with her hands, asking if only the nighttime counts as time off. Hiroto chuckles, shaking his head. No, it's the whole day. He realizes that, as a slave, she probably never experienced holidays before. Feeling a bit guilty, he decides this would be a good opportunity to show her the outside world and give her a taste of freedom. Berna continues watching the news, noticing how, even during Golden Week, people seem to be working. The trains are packed with commuters, and she asks Hiroto if those people are also slaves. He shakes his head, denying her assumption. With that, they head out together to explore the largest shopping mall in the neighborhood. The mall's size and scale amaze Berna. She's not used to such a bustling environment, where people rely on maps just to navigate the place. They stop at a cafe, which fascinates Berna even more with its vibrant atmosphere and the number of girls chatting away at nearby tables. Hiroto, noticing Berna's excitement, chooses a cafe that's popular among women, hoping she'll enjoy the experience. As soon as the waitress approaches, she makes an innocent but realizes that they are a couple, and says that we have special seating for couples. Hiroto's face turns red as he quickly waves his hands and stammers that he just wants normal seating, and his flustered reaction catches Berna off guard. They sit down at a table, but Hiroto overhears the nearby girls talking. Some are commenting on how beautiful Berna looks, noting that she must be a foreigner, while others compare Hiroto to her, finding him average in comparison. He feels the weight of their stares, embarrassed by the attention. He flips through the menu Berna is holding, and to his horror, he realizes they've been handed a special couple's menu. Not this one. He blurts out, snatching the menu away before immediately calming himself and apologizing to Berna. Sorry, just pick whatever you want. His inner frustration grows. He's not used to being in such social situations. As a self-professed bookworm, this public display feels like a nightmare. When the ice cream arrives, Hiroto encourages Berna to eat, but instead, she scoots up a spoonful and offers it to him. Hiroto's face turns crimson again as he whispers frantically, asking what she is doing and reminding her that people are watching. His eyes dart around, catching glimpses of the other patrons whispering about them, and he adds that she shouldn't do things like that in public. Just eat your food. But Berna, determined, refuses to eat before Hiroto, convinced she must ensure everything is okay with the food. Hiroto sighs, knowing she won't eat unless he does. He reluctantly takes a bite, trying to ignore the whispers around him. Once Berna starts eating, she beams with happiness, finding the ice cream delicious. Hiroto is relieved that she's enjoying it. As they continue their meal, he notices Berna watching others in the cafe. Many of the customers are taking photos of their food with their phones, a sight that fascinates her. Berna, however, looks down at her empty hands. She doesn't have a phone, and for a moment, her cheerful expression fades. Hiroto notices her sudden sadness, but has no idea why. To his dismay, tears begin welling up in her eyes, causing the surrounding whispers to grow louder. People are now speculating that they've had a fight, and Hiroto is mortified. In a panic, he tries to comfort her by placing a gentle hand on her head and softly saying that it's okay, reminding her not to cry because they are here to have fun. He hopes his words will ease her sadness. Inwardly, he berates himself, convinced he somehow messed everything up, even though he doesn't know what went wrong. At least for now, she seems calmer. But the gossip continues. Nearby customers are now whispering that they must be a couple, especially after seeing Hiroto pat her head so gently. Some girls even swoon, calling him a high school heartthrob. Hiroto can't believe what he's hearing. He's a bookworm, not some romantic hero. They quickly finish their meal, and Hiroto grabs her hand, rushing them out of the cafe. His heart races, filled with embarrassment. How did they end up looking like a couple in front of all those people? He's never felt so humiliated. All he wanted was a quiet meal, and now he can't stop thinking about what his classmates would say if they saw him like this. As they leave, a familiar face, one of his classmates, witnesses the spectacle. All he wants now is to get back home and bury himself in his studies. The next day, Hiroto sits at his desk, focused on his studies, with Berna quietly hovering behind him. It's his last day off, and he's determined to make it count. But no matter how hard he tries, his mind drifts to yesterday's embarrassment, the mistaken couple at the cafe, and the gossip that followed. He sighs, pushing the memory aside, trying to refocus. Just as Hiroto starts to regain his concentration, the doorbell rings. Berna begins moving toward the door, but Hiroto stops her, saying she doesn't have to do that, as she's not a slave anymore. Unknown to him, The girl on the other side of the door hears the word slave and is caught off guard. When Hiroto opens the door, he's greeted by Azumi-san, one of his classmates. She looks puzzled but maintains her composure. She's holding a small basket, smiling as she explains that her mom asked her to bring this over. We had some extra sweets. Hiroto thanked her, adding that it was no problem since they were neighbors. He glances at the basket and notes that the treats inside look delicious. Azumi-san's attention quickly shifts to Burna, who stands quietly in the background. Curious and slightly unnerved by what she overheard, Azumi cautiously asks who the girl is. Hiroto, feeling a bit nervous, invites her in and offers her tea before answering the question. He hopes the tea will buy him some time to think about how to explain Burna's presence. As Azumi sits, Hiroto considers his options. He knows that Azumi has sharp and likely overheard his earlier mention of slavery. This complicates things. Azumi's face betrays a mix of confusion and fear, and Hiroto realizes she's taking the situation more seriously than he anticipated. He can practically see the gears turning in her head. She nervously asks, "Who is this girl?" There's a noticeable edge to her voice now. Azumi narrows her eyes as she scrutinizes Burna, finding the situation hard to believe. She quietly questions how Hiroto, the bookworm, could be involved with someone like her. Hiroto resigns to the inevitable, introduces Burna, and explains that due to certain circumstances, he has been taking care of her. But Azumi isn't convinced. The way Hiroto refers to Burna without honorifics immediately raises more red flags. She points out sharply that he's still addressed her formerly. Before Hiroto can respond, Burna approaches with a glass of juice for Azumi. Despite Hiroto insisting that he would handle it, she goes ahead and serves their guest anyway. The scene unfolds awkwardly, with Hiroto inwardly cringing. Azumi watches the interaction, her confusion deepening. Without warning, she blurts out, asking if they're flirting. Hiroto's heart skips a beat, and he quickly denies it, stammering that she's misunderstood. But Azumi, unconvinced, snaps that he didn't need to show off like that. As Hiroto attempts to explain, she cuts him off, her voice dripping with skepticism as she questions if Burna is just a roommate. Then, with a wry smile, she reveals she saw them together yesterday. He freezes, immediately knowing what she means. Azumi's eyes narrow as she demands the truth about their relationship. Hiroto feels cornered, struggling to find the right words without making things worse. After a moment of hesitation, he finally speaks up, choosing his words carefully. He admits that Burna did feed him a spoonful of parfait, but insists it's not what Azumi thinks. She did it on her own, he explains. I didn't ask her to. We just respect and help each other. Azumi, still upset, processes his words. Frustrated, she stands up abruptly. You didn't have to rub it in my face, she says, moving toward the door, clearly intending to leave. Hiroto quickly asks her to at least finish her tea. She pauses, a flicker of emotions crossing her face. She never expected to hear him talk about his relationship like this. Her voice trembles slightly as she tries to speak, but her words falter. Tears well up in her eyes as she puts on her shoes. Even if it's not what I thought. She trails off, unable to finish. As she opens the door, Burna follows, looking genuinely concerned. Azumi turns, surprised, as Burna gently wipes away her tears. Azumi freezes, stunned by the unexpected kindness. Hiroto watches from behind, guilt gnawing at him for how things turned out. It's just in her nature to care for people, he explains softly. She didn't mean anything by it. Azumi looks at Burna, realization dawning on her face. She'd been selfish in her assumptions. Slowly, an awkward smile forms on her lips, and she lets out a soft laugh, mostly at herself. Burna and Hiroto stand there, unsure how to respond as Azumi chuckles quietly. Burna's really beautiful, Azumi murmurs to herself, even on the inside. Gathering her composure, Azumi wipes her eyes and offers a faint smile. Sorry, she says, I get it now. I won't question it anymore. She gives them her best wishes before stepping outside. As she walks away, a gentle breeze stirs the air. Picking up a fallen leaf, she whispers something about a rainbow in the sky. Hiroto watches her go, thinking to himself that people say stuff like that at weddings.